House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol will hold its fourth public hearing. The panel says that it will focus on former President Donald Trump's efforts to pressure state and local officials to overturn the 2020 election results. Our congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is on Capitol Hill with a preview of what to expect. Scott, good morning.
And Marie, good morning to you. This committee has already said it believes Donald Trump was part of a conspiracy to defraud the United States. Today, they'll argue it was a component of that plan to coerce local election officials to throw out their votes and throw the election to Trump.
In the days and weeks before rioters stormed the Capitol, the committee says it was state officials who were feeling the pressure from then President Trump and his allies.
They were basically trying to get state legislators to not certify the winner of the election, but certify the loser, Donald Trump.
Today, the committee will call 3 Republican witnesses to try to make that case. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger had this call with Trump.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Raffensperger's deputy, Gabriel Sterling, and Arizona State House Speaker Rusty Bowers, who says he was called by Trump and Rudy Giuliani in November 2020, urging him to change the state's electors, which he rejected. Also appearing is Wandrea Shea Moss, a Georgia election worker targeted by Donald Trump, who falsely claimed she carried out a fake ballot scheme. The committee says the pressure campaign on her and the local officials put them in danger.
He faced a lot of threats, and this was a tragic common denominator, that people that got in Donald Trump's way, people that stood up and confronted that big lie he was telling, had their lives turned upside down.
Death threats?
Death threats, absolutely. Armed protesters outside their homes.
As Trump continues to make baseless claims about the election, his former vice president, Mike Pence, remains a focal point. He only had this to say about January 6th at a speech in Chicago Monday.
You know, we've all been through a lot over the last several years. A global pandemic, social unrest, a divisive election, a tragic day in our nation's capital.
But the committee says it's still seeking an interview with Pence and hasn't ruled out a subpoena.
And the committee's investigation is still expanding. They very much want to talk to Ginny Thomas, wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, about her communication with local election officials, including in Arizona, where they say she was part of a pressure campaign to overturn the election results. Anne-Marie?
Okay, Scott, because these hearings are taking place over, several weeks, different times, everyone's not going to sort of see the grand argument here. Can you just explain how today's hearing fits into the broader argument that the committee is building?
They're actually moving back in time, Anne-Marie, from where they were last week. Last week, we heard about January 6th itself, the violent attack and the attempted attack against Mike Pence. Now we move back to the weeks between November 3rd and January 6th, and this pressure campaign that set the stage for January 6th and the attack to get local election officials to overturn their own results and throw an election where it did not belong, to the losing candidate. This is a bit of a preview of what happened at the prior hearing. This is the chapters that come earlier in the book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we heard in your story that Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers is going to be talking. He described the former president's efforts to overturn the election results as unwise, unsupported, juvenile. Also, the Secretary of State for Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, can you remind us of the sort of pressure they were under at the time?
Not just pressure from the former president, but from that orbit of people around Donald Trump, be it Rudy Giuliani, some of the campaign advisors, but also the Trump supporters in those states. And I want to lean into what Mr. Schiff said in that report earlier, that there is a, quote, tragic common denominator to all this, that these local officials, those who stood up to the false election claims, faced threats. They faced threats on the ground in their home states from surrogates and supporters of these election fraud claims. We're going to hear a lot today, Anne-Marie, about the component of threats to every part of the story between November 3rd and the attack on the Capitol January 6th.
So in that sort of prime time first hearing, we heard the committee's plans to sort of lay out their argument. But now Time Magazine is reporting that there may be at least one additional hearing in the series. What would the topic be? Do you know?
Well, this is as clear as mud because this committee keeps shifting the goalposts logistically of its hearings. These were hearings, by the way, that were supposed to begin, according to the committee, in February and March. Here we are in June, and we're about halfway through. We expect at least 2 more hearings, likely next week or in the early part of the summer. If they add a 7th hearing, if they add an 8th hearing, there'd be little surprise around here, but there's any number of threads they still want to pull on. We know they want to talk about the far-right extreme groups who were part of the conspiracy, according to the Justice Department, of the plotting and planning ahead of January 6th. We know they have a team chasing the money trail, and they teased a bit of that last week when they talked about the big grift and the money raised off the election, and they've indicated they have a lot more to show there. We know they have a team looking at security failures here at the Capitol, the lack of police planning and preparation, the slow military response. There's any number of chapters they may still want to read, so it would surprise no one if they make the book a little bit longer and have more public hearings.
Scott, thank you very much.